mean, really, I think we all knew something like this was going to happen. I'm only shocked that it didn't happen sooner.
Hi, I'm Don Joe, and if you're... Oh, wait, we're not doing that? Oh.
Hello. Please leave a message after the tone.
You will die, your face will melt off, and your children will weep over your exploded body. And I'm just finally gonna completely embrace it, banging 7-gram rock. I just have a different constitution, I have a different brain, I have a different heart, I have a different, I get tiger blood, man. Dying's for fools.
My name's Bag, Paper Bag, and I refuse to speak about my attorney present.
Alright, look, I am not the Bag's lawyer, and whoever said I am is going on my murder list.
Personally, I knew something was wrong when I saw him watching that movie.
I think it was the movie. Totally the movie.
Oh yeah, it was definitely the movie. That's what did it.
I don't even know what we're talking about.
I want to ask you a question. What is the worst movie ever made? I'm sure that quite a few answers are coming to mind right now, and not one person will have the same answer. This question has fascinated me for the longest time, as it seems as though by now, an answer should have been found. A conclusion should have been reached. You'd think a title like The Worst Movie Ever would be easy to give out, as you figure that there's only so low you can go before you hit rock bottom. But then you look deeper, beneath the bottom, and you find something far worse than you ever could have imagined. I thought I knew what I was getting myself into. Surely, it couldn't be that bad. How foolish I was.
The year is 1997. Bill Clinton is still trying to run a country. The original Fallout has just released. The Pokemon anime has aired for the first time in Japan. And a young film producer named Lawrence Kasanoff has just finished production on Mortal Kombat Annihilation and is approached by Joshua Wexler, an employee of Kasanoff's production company, Threshold Entertainment. Together they developed a concept for an animated feature film, a sort of massive crossover between well-known mascots commonly seen in grocery stores. Despite having no prior experience in the field of animation, Kasanoff decided to go ahead with the project, choosing to not only produce, but also direct this new film. It would then amass an all-star cast of celebrity voices, including professional drug addict Charlie Sheen, the somehow still relevant Wayne Brady, the not at all relevant Hilary Duff, and many other actors ranging from no talent to why are you in this? Production of the movie would continue for over 5 years, until in 2002, when it was reported that hard drives containing much of the unfinished film's assets were stolen in what was called an act of industrial espionage. And from there, it seems like the story should be over. An entire movie stolen and lost to time, never to see the light of day. That's not the end of the story. No, far from it. This is only the beginning of the story of the worst animated film ever made. 2012's Foodfight. If you've been around the internet as long as I have, then let me be the first to say I'm sorry. But you've also probably heard of this movie and how the original version of it was stolen. But that's only part of the story. In fact, it may not even be the story at all. Many who worked on the film recalled no such theft ever actually occurring. instead believing it to have been entirely fabricated by an unsatisfied Kasanoff who wanted to start from scratch. The movie would then rapidly descend into development hell, as production resumed in 2004, with Kasanoff reportedly switching the animation from a computer animated style more focused on exaggerated squelch and stretch, to a computer animated style instead focused on motion capture. The result being a disconnect between Kasanoff and the animators. Things would only get worse, however, as Kasanoff's continued micromanagement and misunderstanding of animation frustrated and angered the crew. His hijinks during production didn't help either, ranging from the irritating yet mundane, such as insisting on the presence of his 2 large dogs in the studio during work hours, to the downright disturbed, such as requesting a personal nude render of one of the film's characters to admire in his free time. I'm just gonna let that fact sink in for a minute. Yeah. Oh my god, this is like if Chris Chan made a movie, I'm just realizing that.
But if you close your eyes...
As production wore on, many brands who had agreed to appear in the film began to pull out in an attempt to escape the obviously sinking ship. One notable brand that pulled out was M&M's, allegedly over how their mascots were being depicted. One example being when the animators allegedly depicted the green M&M as a male in footage shown to company executives. I don't even know where to begin with that one. From there, things only got worse as the film continued to miss release dates, and Lionsgate, the film's distributors, as well as investors from the company's story arc, began to grow impatient, as the film's budget ballooned to upwards of $65 million. The film was finally auctioned off in 2011 for $2.5 million, but that still is not the end of the story. Story Arc ended up invoking a clause in their contract which allowed the Fireman's Fund insurance company, who had insured the film, to finish production and release the movie as quickly and as inexpensively as possible. Finally, in 2012, almost 15 years after its initial conception, Foodfight released in theaters for only a single week in the UK, and it made only $15,000. My god. It would release on DVD in the UK, and in 2013 it would get its DVD release in the US. The reason for its delay being because the American distributor wanted to wait until Walmart could arrange a good enough product display for the film. You can't make this stuff up! The movie was universally panned upon release, being criticized for just about everything you can criticize a movie for, and being a big black stain upon the animation industry as a whole. Like the Titanic movies from a while back, this too gained notoriety when it was reviewed by JonTron and later the Nostalgia Critic, essentially breaking and contorting their psyches beyond all repair. And because I'm basically just a dollar store version of both of them, I felt I had to see what all the fuss was about. Could there really be a movie so bad it can take the title of worst ever? What could be so bad that it causes this? Or this?
Am I dead yet?
And I suppose there's only one way to find out. So join me, friends, and bear witness to the greatest monstrosity ever unleashed upon viewing audiences. Prepare to stare into the void and pray to whatever god shall listen that it does not stare back. For today, we take up an unenviable task. I will not lie to you. Your chances of survival are small. Some may even turn against your friends as living corpses. But I promise that I will use my arcane gifts to ensure that your views are given on to the algorithm. This is the greatest reward, more so than even actual entertainment. For the fate of the channel is an eternal concern. Now come, follow me. Hold strong against whatever horrors we may face, and allow me to make this video. I ask not for my own selfish desires of fame or glory, but for the good of the internet. Now, let's take a look at Foodfight. Roll film. Before the movie even begins, an omen is delivered. My soundproof curtain just fell over. That is the biggest sign of things to come. After stalling for a bit longer, the actual movie begins with the immediate appearance of a title card. It's like watching a murder happen in real time. So this movie, rather unsurprisingly, takes place in a supermarket. That being Marketopolis Market. Redundancy.
Fun for all ages. Apparently when the store closes, then at night it transforms into some kind of city. If that doesn't make any sense to you, then don't worry, that's a running theme. A bit of advice for anyone going into this movie: get used to the taste of your own vomit, because you'll be throwing up in your own mouth multiple times throughout your viewing experience. I'm just gonna get this talking point out of the way so I can move on to the other ways in which this movie sucks. The animation is god-awful. I can cut this movie the teensiest, tiniest bit of slack, considering this animation probably wasn't intended as a final product and was most likely just whatever the insurance company found lying around in Kasanoff's creepy basement, but that does not excuse how awful everything looks from a design standpoint. Everything is coated in this muted brown color palette that I can only describe as fecal. It also doesn't excuse how long this opening sequence drags on for. We're just being shown a bunch of random nonsense that establishes absolutely nothing other than what your nightmares are going to look like for the next 2 weeks. At least 4 separate irrelevant characters are shoved in front of the camera before we actually get to what could be generously described as a plot. Here we're introduced to our main character, Dex Dogtective, played by everyone's favorite escaped psych ward patient, Charlie Sheen. Dex is a stupid name and I'm not going to use it, so let's see what insulting pop cultural reference I'm going to use instead. Okay, let's see here. Scooby Don't, Marma Dump, S Crappy, and that's all I've got? Really? Okay, fine, Dex it is then. Dexy boy here is in the middle of thwarting some type of crime, I think. I'm not entirely sure because as far as I can tell, stuff is just happening with no rhyme or reason to it. So after some of the worst animation I've seen since about 5 seconds ago, we cut to Dex speaking directly to the camera, and where did he come from? So this thing is Dex's sidekick, Daredevil Dan, played by Wayne Brady. Everything about this character is just wrong, from his movement to his voice to the way he looks to whatever the heck this is.
This is, I didn't know. Stop it, please, I beg you!
Anyway, apparently Dex is planning to propose to his girlfriend, Sunshine, a freaky, half-human, half-cat abomination against God. If you think she looks bad, though, take a look at these horrifically misshapen children in the background. They look like what would happen if someone tried to give birth on a running microwave. Everything in this movie looks like it's gonna kill me. Here's where another major problem with the movie becomes apparent. Yeah, this movie has a lot of those. Big shock, I know. The pacing is an absolute nightmare, and I do not mean that in a hyperbolic sense. I think that this is genuinely the speed that nightmares move at. Everything is moving so quickly, it just never takes a moment to slow down. And despite this meth head pacing, somehow the movie manages to be unbearably slow. So much is going on all at once, and yet it all means so little. So anyway, due to some contrived nonsense reasons involving a plane crash, if you don't question it then I won't either, before Dex can propose, Sunshine just completely up and vanishes into thin air. I am not even joking. The woman, question mark, just disappears. There's one scene of her walking off and then gone. There's not even like a scene of her disappearing or something like that. She walks off and then we cut to Dex and Dan standing around like morons wondering where she went.
Don't worry, it ain't like it's the last time you're ever gonna see Sunshine again.
Sometimes foreshadowing is relatively obvious.
Now we cut to 6 months later, where back in the normal world, normal being a vague term, we see some kind of new product being brought into the store by this thing, who is genuinely terrifying, and every time I look at it, I swear it's looking right back at me. But I'm more focused on how utterly devastated the store owner sounds when this bag of chips gets stepped on. Just listen.
It was a perfectly good bag of chips.
He sounds like someone just died in front of him. It's a bag of chips. What is his issue? Maybe he's just really passionate about food waste? That or his age has finally started to catch up with him and he's just losing it. You know what? Maybe it's both.
Son, always remember to never waste your food, for food waste shall be the great undoing of mankind, our hubris finally destroying us as we fly too close to the sun on wings of salt and vinegar! A thing!
So anyway, turns out the terrifying Christopher Lloyd creature, that's who plays that thing by the way, was delivering a mysterious new product known as Brand X, and after a reused shot, we're back to Food World. Apparently, Dex has been spending the past 6 months just moping around because he couldn't find the cat lady. He's actually so depressed that his motion capture starts getting worse. On that topic, let's talk about the motion capture.
It's bad! As much as I don't want to say this, I have to give Elf Bowling an incredibly small amount of credit for not relying too much on its motion capture. It used it a lot, but it had some semblance of self-control. This movie does not have that in the slightest. This movie is an alcoholic at a free bar. Every single character motion is animated with motion capture, and it does not look good at all. Characters sometimes look like they're straight up just having a seizure mid-scene. I want to make a Microsoft Kinect joke, but I think even the Kinect had better motion tracking. Whoa! The Kinect had better motion tracking. It's no longer an I think, it's an I know the Kinect had better motion tracking. I'm gonna skip a few utterly pointless scenes here real quick and instead jump to this pointless scene of this new character. There's also this random annoying penguin character who shows up a bunch later, but I don't care enough to introduce it or even acknowledge its existence. This weasel thing is vaguely important in some way, which means he's gonna be appearing a lot. Which is bad, because every second he's on screen, my fight or flight response kicks in and starts telling me to punch my monitor. I don't think I've ever seen a character that managed to unsettle me in just about every way like this character has. For one, he looks like crap. I mean that literally. He looks like a turd with eyes and a jacket. There is no other way I can describe him. Secondly, he never stops moving. And every time he does, he seems to contort in some new horrifying way that should not be possible even in a cartoon. Finally, his voice sounds like every creepy homeless guy on a bus distilled into a sort of gestalt consciousness. I don't know why it sounds like this because I think the voice actor is just doing a really bad Peter Lorre impression. Who actually voices this guy anyway? Okay, it's disturbing how much sense that makes. So after Creepy the Weasel gets hit by a train, I'm not joking, just watch. We cut to the club that Dex has apparently been running this whole time, the Copa Banana. Ha ha ha. I hope you really like food puns because this movie's humor is derived mostly from jokes that even popsicle sticks would be ashamed of. Almost every single scene has some type of pun in it, whether it's in the background or spat out by one of these walking homunculi. Around here is also where the product placement starts becoming more apparent. It was kinda subtle before, subtle in the same way that a brick being thrown through a window factory is subtle, but still. Here though, we're just straight up watching a bunch of well-known product mascots walk around this rave sequence. Like Mr. Clean, for example, who is just indescribably terrifying.
I do not like this painting, Charlie. Smug aura mocks me. It's evil, Charlie.
So after Dex's motion capture glitches out again, we get a scene of this horrifyingly ugly potato chip guy, before getting introduced to a new character, Lady X, played by Eva Longoria, who looks like a Barbie doll if it somehow had less of a soul. She's apparently the mascot for Brand X, and for some godforsaken reason, Dex smelling her is a plot point. I am not even joking, insert some random Joe Biden meme here. After some more puns that make me want to take an extended stay in the femur breaker, the entire club descends into a massive brawl. Or as some might prefer to call it, what was, we have title! We have title! Yay! If you listen very carefully during this deluge of muted colors and bad lighting, you might be able to hear the wasted talent of some of your favorite voice actors, like Jeff Bennett, for example. Don't worry if you missed it though, because this isn't the only time that good talent goes to waste in this movie. But we'll get to that later. For now though, let's get back to the scraps of a plot being established. Okay, so Dan wanders off with the X-Lady while spouting some dialogue that unsettles me on an existential level.
Chicks think chocolate! I told you! I knew it!
I am very uncomfortable with the energy that we've created in the studio today.
The very next day, Dan has gone missing, and while Dex is moping in his office some more, Lady X shows up to Okay, so I'm gonna try to get through this talking point as quickly as humanly possible. There is a concerning amount of not so subtle adult references in this movie, and it is just the worst thing ever. These happen so frequently that I honestly forgot this is supposed to be a kids movie, and I thought I was watching some kind of forgotten Adult Swim pilot. This scene especially makes me uncomfortable because of how weirdly the characters move around the scene. The constantly spinning camera doesn't help either. Plus the hair smelling is back, that's always fun. And the scene ends with a line that managed to make my skeleton nearly jump out of my body.
I haven't shown you my secret ingredient.
Stop.
Inside.
Stop talking! So the plot has finally started to kind of take shape, as a whole bunch of dead bodies are found out in the middle of the street. I'm only partially exaggerating. Okay, so now I have to take a moment and talk about how this fever dream of a world functions. This is important for the plot, so don't leave the video yet, I promise I'll keep it short. All of the characters within the food world refer to themselves as the icon of a brand or product, or Ikes for short. Rest assured though, I'm not going to say that because it's stupid.
According to the movie, when an icon dies, the product that they represent dies with them, because...
We're the soul of our products. Without us, they're gone. Real fast.
I don't get it. This doesn't make any sense, for a number of reasons, and has horrifying implications. Are the mascots some kind of construct that a brand is bound to? Is it like Voldemort and the Horcruxes? If the mascots are their brand and are essentially their own people, what do relationships mean? We see children earlier in the movie. What are they supposed to be? Where did they come from? When one of these characters die and their product dies too, does an entire company just go bankrupt out of nowhere? Why does this happen? Does the mascot just disappear from marketing? Do people wake up one day and just decide to stop buying certain products? Also, do these characters really exist in the real world, or again, are they some kind of concept? We see them walking around in the real world later in the film, and earlier they mentioned how they can't let people see them, so is it some kind of bizarre Toy Story type deal? To try and find an answer to these questions, I asked Professor Reagan to look it over and see what he could figure out, so let's see what he thinks. Professor? Thanks, Professor Reagan. Always good to hear from you. Okay, so I lied and didn't keep that explanation short at all. Back to the plot. Because all of those non-existent characters died, a whole bunch of products have just straight up vanished from the store, causing the terrifying Christopher Lloyd thing to conveniently return with new brand Dex replacements. There's clearly some type of mystery going on here, and where there's a mystery, there's usually a talking dog. So Dex suits up to find Dan and figure out just what in the heck is going on in this movie. Meanwhile, Nazis! No, really, I'm serious, Nazis. More Brand X mascots show up, and they are literally Nazis. And this isn't some meme exaggeration here, it's not some everyone I disagree with is Hitler thing. They're Nazis. They look like Nazis, they talk like Nazis, they even scapegoat racial minorities in order to take control of a failing government after orchestrating a false flag operation. Like Nazis! If you want to see Jeff Bennett waste his talent some more, here's him as a perverted Nazi Tim Curry. I can't believe that's an actual thing that exists.
I could just kill you. That would be lots of fun. More fun than a spanking.
I want to die.
Meanwhile, in the nicest street in Fresno, the godforsaken weasel thing is back for another scene. And it somehow got creepier. Mostly because now it moves like the Exorcist girl and regularly leaps at the camera like a rejected FNAF character. Aside from that, we got some more nightmare fuel and some more bad motion capture before Dex gets a lead on Dan. Also, the weasel thing gets crushed with a wrecking ball, that's fun. If you had any doubts about Brand X being literal Nazis, just take a look at this tower Dex climbs. This is Nazis! They just Wolfensteined it and took out the funny windmill symbol. We get an incredibly awkward cut to the inside of the tower, where Lady X lives, I guess, and we get another weird dance segment full of spinning camera shots and dialogue that wouldn't pass in a Seth Rogen production. So it turns out the lady who hangs around with literal Nazis is a bad guy, who'da sunk it, and knocks out Dex with some more food puns that make me want to smash my head through a wall. Please be dead!
Like macaroni and cheese, peanut butter and jelly,
Slamming my head against the table hurt less than those puns. Dex wakes up and is reunited with Dan. Fortunately, though, they're going to die in an overly elaborate washing machine death trap. Unfortunately, though, they manage to escape through some poorly animated nonsense about socks. Again, if you don't question it, then I won't either. Meanwhile, the Nazis are preparing to execute their final solution. It's robots. No, really, it's robots. They're gonna use robots and genocide the entire store so they can take over. That's their plan. You can't make this stuff up. Why are the bad guys just so blatantly Nazis? Could they just not come up with anything better? Hi, I'm Don Joe, and do you need a villain but lack the time or creativity to come up with your own? Then it's high time to come on down to Rent-A-Reich. Rent-A-Reich is the nation's #1 supplier of ready-made villains for movies just like yours. Rent-A-Reich provides all variety of funny German people, subtle or blatant, and with over 1,000 years of service, we're guaranteed to have what you're looking for. But you better act fast, because our stock is blitzing off the lot, and with prices like these, we just can't be beat. So come on down to one of our over 6 million locations and take a look at what we have in store. Just listen to these satisfied customers. Rent-A-Reich is great. I'm a repeat customer. Is that the only satisfied customer? It is? Okay. Anyway, now that we're done talking about Nazis, here's a Jewish caricature that even Mel Brooks would call offensive. This thing is voiced by James Arnold Taylor, by the way, aka Clone Wars Kenobi. So I'm just gonna give everyone a second to cry over that fact. Anyway, okay, so some type of plot development is happening, I guess. Because according to Kenozi over here, Brand X is not only toxic to humans, but also highly addictive. It's drugs. There is no joke. The Nazis are selling drugs. I can't believe that is a plot point. The diabetic duo over here are gonna try to get Brand X recalled by sending an email on the store owner's computer. But to do that, they need to get to the other side of the store during the day, which is bad because the movie is trying to be Toy Story again and say that humans aren't supposed to see them. After an incredibly abrupt cut, we end up in the real world, or at least what I think is the real world. I don't know, this could all be some sort of weird drug-induced hallucination. I don't know how they got here or where this incredibly ugly Nazi lady came from, but I figure like most of this movie, it's best for everyone if we just don't question it. Now we have a fight scene and I know you're probably expecting me to start screaming in terror or have some kind of breakdown or something like that, but I've seen 5 people in the past week walking down the street who looked exactly like this. Anyway, our hollow shells of protagonists managed to escape on a magic flying soda bottle and somehow make their way to their destination. I have no idea where they are right now. Like, seriously, I do not know what this place is. I think it's supposed to be the store owner's office because it's where they find the computer they were looking for, but it also appears to be some kind of mascot morgue. I don't know what the implications of that are, to be honest, so let's distract ourselves by introducing another new character out of nowhere. Meet Perverted Shatner Bat. I call him that because he's a bat that sounds like William Shatner, who spends the entire movie creepily hitting on Dan.
Do you work out? I use the Thigh Master.
Your behavior frightens and confuses me, sir.
Whenever this character is on screen, he just refuses to shut up. It doesn't help that he has some of the worst dialogue in the entire film.
You know, you're not dead, but you're not exactly living either. It's sort of like being in summer school. Oh, come on, that's funny. No, that's funny.
What kind of dialogue is this? Alright, so I had to piece together what's happening in this scene like some kind of poorly rendered jigsaw puzzle made out of razor blades and tetanus. Here's the lore dump. According to this unexplained computer demon, only 2 products have ever been recalled from the store. One being some kind of horrifying prune woman, who's important later, and the other being Sunshine. Remember her? Dex's furry girlfriend from like an hour ago? Apparently, the recall of both her and Prune Lady was ordered by Brand X, meaning that the bad guys are in fact the bad guys! With that shocking revelation out of the way, now we just up and leave. Yeah, it turns out getting to this computer and sending the email and all that stuff wasn't actually important because now they're just gonna go and fight the Nazis head on. Speaking of the Nazis, let's go check in on them. Yep, still Nazis. Anyway, now we're back at the Food Pun Club, where all the irrelevant good guy characters are meeting up to prepare for the movie's climax. And now's probably as good a time as any to mention that this movie's soundtrack sucks. There's a whole bunch of sequences where songs just start playing. I don't mean musical numbers though, and thank God for that, because I think if any of these characters sang, I would do something drastic. I mean, there's sequences where stuff is just happening, and some of the worst music that humanity has ever conceived is just playing in the background. Another thing to mention is that around this point, the audio quality of characters is going to start randomly dropping. There are multiple points where the audio literally sounds like it was recorded in the trunk of a car. Like I said, though, at least no one is singing. The only thing that could make this movie any worse is some kind of out-of-nowhere musical number with utterly nonsensical lyrics that just play it. Oh, hi. I know you're probably expecting me to make some comment about melting eyeballs or burning down orphanages or something like that, but that theme is so utterly baffling and disturbing to me that I've actually started reading the Holy Bible. This is concerning for a number of reasons. I'm actually up to the Book of Revelations right now. Very interesting read. But now that that's out of the way, what in God's name am I looking at? Seriously, Nazi Curry walks in and starts singing his own bad song, there's a fart joke, and then they start singing the French national anthem? Or rather, an incredibly poorly written parody of it that somehow manages to make just as little sense as the original song. I have no idea what the connection of any of this is, other than the fact that there's a French stereotype character which even I found distasteful, which is really saying something if you're familiar with this channel. The motion capture in this scene looks especially bad. Mr. Clean still looks like he stands outside children's windows at night, and the longer the scene drags on, the more the character's animations start to devolve into uncontrollable full-body spasms. This legitimately looks like the kind of stuff you would see after ingesting an entire box of Benadryl and then downing it with gasoline. Except here, the sweet release of death never comes. If I just were to,
If I just aim this here, that would probably kill me the fastest, right? I think? Maybe? Not worth it. Alright, so the song makes Nazi Curry and the rest of the Dingus Brigade leave the club. Not before Nazi Curry has a creepy laugh fit that I'm gonna spare you all from. Now it's time for Dex to give an inspiring speech that I'm also gonna spare you all from. Apparently Dex has some kind of plan to stop the Nazis. I don't know what it is, because the movie just decides to skip over the actual plan part of the plan. All I know is that it somehow involves aluminum foil. Because as we all know, a Nazi's one true weakness is aluminum foil. That's why I've got this anti-Nazi hat. To protect me in case they ever decide to visit Canada. This is where the movie's world building, or lack thereof, really starts to fall apart. The world that these characters inhabit makes utterly no sense. I don't want to call it a house of cards because that would imply some kind of structure, cohesion, or thought. It's more like a pile of mud collapsing in on itself. And the mud is full of snakes. Angry snakes. Who are also racist. During the big speech scene from a few seconds ago, they mention how if they don't stop the Nazis, then other stores are gonna get Nazi'd too. But like, how does that work? Does every single supermarket have its own individual world of mascots? Does every store world have different mascots, or are there duplicates? If there are duplicates, what happens when one dies? If a version of Mr. Clean dies in one store, what happens to Mr. Clean in another store? Does he just drop dead on the spot? Maybe Professor Reagan's got an answer. Let's see what he thinks. Alright, it's the final act. We're in the home stretch now, and thank God, because if this went on for any longer, I would unironically consider becoming a Mormon. It's time for a climactic final battle, or as some may prefer to call it, a... Food! We have title! Yay! God, I wanna die. Hey kid. Do you like bad animation? Well good, because we got a whole lot of it coming your way. Get used to seeing people falling, because that's all that happens in these next two scenes. Seriously, it's just 30 straight minutes of ugly people throwing stuff that then explodes and knocks over some other ugly people while the same music track plays on a loop! It's kinda like a Michael Bay movie, except somehow even less enjoyable and probably more racist. Or maybe less racist, or some degree of racist. I'm not entirely sure who to root for here, because on one hand, I want all of the annoying characters to die horribly, but on the other hand, saying I want the Nazis to win sounds wrong, and my legal team has highly recommended I don't say that. So instead, let's hope they both lose. The longer this goes on, the more hope I lose for tomorrow, so I'm gonna try and skip as much of this as possible. Trust me, you are not missing anything. Larry Kasanoff's persona is back, by the way, and his audio quality has taken a nosedive, meaning he now sounds twice as creepy as he did before. I feel like he's gonna stare directly into the camera and start telling me to pull my skin off. He does get dumped in a sewer though, so at least we got that going for us. We get another one of those awful music segments with a song that really doesn't fit whatever is happening on screen right now. Or maybe it does and I just don't know what's actually happening. There's some more nonsense with the Nazis and more scenes of people falling over before we finally get an on-screen death. Seriously, seeing one of these stupid characters die is the first time I felt joy in the past hour. Yay, he's dead! Finally, someone died! And if you still somehow don't believe that the bad guys are just straight up Nazis, right before this Nazi guy gets killed, he literally says, and I quote, "I was just following orders." Don't believe me? Here, watch.
I was just following orders.
Yep, they said that. How did this happen? How did this get by any type of anything?
Yeah, but your writers were so preoccupied with whether or not they didn't stop to think if they should.
Okay, so I lied and that whole battle scene was not the climax, because we actually still have 20 minutes of movie left. I'm struggling to decide what parts of this to talk about, because it's hard to tell what actually has any sort of meaning or importance, and what is just the character speaking in tongues. For example, this scene with a Jewish caricature returns and goes on some unintelligible rant. Or this scene where Pervert Bat returns and goes on some unintelligible rant. Or this scene where Dex goes on, yeah, I think you know what he does. Oh, and the weasel thing still exists, unfortunately. He has a scene where he cuts down a power line or something and then fights a Nazi. I don't even really know what's happening anymore. Hope you still like bad puns, because those are running rampant, even in scenes where they really don't belong. It's totally not affecting my mental state in any way whatsoever.
Once more into the bleach, my friend. Once more.
Dex manages to infiltrate the Fuhrer bunker and then blows up a bunch of stuff. Then we get this incredibly awkward cut revealing, drumroll please,
furry girl who was being held hostage by the Nazis this whole time or something, I don't know. There's an incredibly awkward and nonsensical slow-mo action scene thing, and then Nazi Curry manages to squeeze out one last bit of perverted weirdness before dying.
I think I just wet myself. It feels rather nice.
I wonder if a fall from this height would be enough to kill me.
So Dex and his Discord kitten have been reunited. Turns out the Nazis took her essence in order to make their products. What is an essence? Why does putting it in something make it addictive? What does any of this mean? I do not know, and frankly, I don't want to. This is also apparently the reason for Dex smelling people's hair being a plot point. Doesn't make it any less creepy though. You know, maybe my Chris Chan comment from the opening wasn't too far off, because this feels like if everything bad about Sonichu was distilled into a feature-length film. If you didn't understand that joke, then you don't know how lucky you are. Anyway, the Fuhrer bunker is collapsing due to the magical lightning strikes that I neglected to mention, and it looks like Dex and Furry Girl are gonna die horribly. But then they don't, because Dan shows up out of nowhere to save them, meaning his character finally has a purpose outside of being annoying. Alright, well, looks like everything's wrapped up and... Oh, nope, Christopher Lloyd is here. Okay. I do not know how this guy got here. Maybe the movie's reality has finally collapsed and we're just witnessing the fallout. If you want more evidence that that's what's happening, take a look at the camera clipping through Dex's model. Yeah, that just happened. The third climax of the movie doesn't last long, though, because they quickly managed to trip the Christopher Lloyd thing, revealing it was never Christopher Lloyd, but in fact a Men in Black robot suit for the movie's true villain. This whole time, the bad guy, who was actually the bad guy this whole time, has in fact been the bad guy this whole time. What? Remember how I said the horrifying prune lady was important later? Here's how. She's the bad lady. Apparently the entire Nazis thing was part of her plan to get revenge on Furry Girl for being a better product. Yes, I am aware that makes no sense, just go with it. Let's get this over with. Time for the final battle. How do you think we're gonna end this movie, huh? What could possibly cap off this saga of a film? What do you think? Go on, guess. I'll give you a minute to think it over. Did you guess cat fight? Because it's a cat fight. The movie ends with a cat fight. I'm not joking. The real question, though, is this better or worse than the cat fight in Elf Bowling? Comment your answers down below for a chance to win a deep sense of self-loathing. Okay, so we're finally wrapping things up. Nazi lady gets beaten up in the street and sentenced to death. I'm only half joking. We also get this horrifying sequence of her becoming ugly again. Wait a second. Nazis. Nazi robots. Ugly Nazi lady? Oh my god, this movie is just Wolfenstein! Mr. Clean's eyes glitch out, making him look like some kind of demon spawn. Nose guy made a cure for death, and now all the dead characters get to come back to life. And Dex delivers some type of moral, I think.
We saved each other because the secret is inside all of us.
What in heaven's name are you talking about?
So Dex and Furry Girl get married, yippee, and the final twist? Dex is Jewish. I don't even know anymore, I'm just glad it's over. Except it's not, because during the credits there's a whole bunch of, I guess you'd say mid-credit scenes, where all of your least favorite characters taunt you with the fact that they didn't die horribly. Because it's not enough to break me, the movie just has to give me hope that it's finally over and then rip it away from me as many times as possible. Why won't it end? Right, we just have to end with Jewish music. Because why not? Is it over? Still not over. Is it over? Oh my god, it's over. So I said that. No, it's not over! Please tell me it's over. There's no more. There's no more. Oh god, it's over. It was again in the morning till the stars were in the sky. I don't know what to say. I genuinely do not know what to say. I feel so empty on the inside. It hurts. Well, that's the film, folks, and what is there to say? Everything you have ever heard about this movie is true. It is awful. There is no plot. From the beginning to the end, it is complete and utter nonsense that follows no form of structure. I have never seen a movie with so little meaning to it. And I don't mean that in some pretentious, oh, nothing means anything, yada yada yada. I mean that the movie means nothing. It has no meaning. It makes no sense. Jokes are awful. It is all food puns, innuendos, and toilet humor.
In fact, I would go so far as to call it an insult to lowbrow humor as a whole. The character design ranges from nightmarish to outright disgusting. And for some reason, the movie feels compelled to shove these faces into the camera at every possible interval. Speaking of the camera, it never stops moving. It's constantly spinning or zooming or doing some other nonsense that makes you want to throw up. The voice acting is kinda decent until you remember who's voicing these characters and what they're saying. Every single voice manages to not fit the character. It is always too much or too little, no in between. And what I think truly earns this movie the near mythical hatred that it receives is that it commits the greatest sin that a movie can ever commit in my eyes. It is so unbelievably boring. A bad movie can be entertaining. A boring movie is nothing. It's less than nothing. At its core, a film is meant to entertain. And if it cannot do that, even unintentionally, then it has failed to be a film in my eyes. This is not a movie. It is an abomination. And yes, this movie has had a troubled history. And what we just witnessed was probably not ever intended to be the final product. But it does not excuse any of the glaring issues with the movie at the conceptual level. There is no soul to this movie. There's not even really a sense of corporate focus-tested emptiness that you get with a lot of modern bad movies. It's just nothing. It is a sick, diseased husk of a film created by a man who had no idea what he was doing and who had no passion for what he was creating. And despite everything, despite every sign that this would be a disaster, despite every warning to stop while they still could, to just let it die, they didn't. I didn't. They saw it through to the bitter end. And now I must finish it. I award this movie a final rating of 0 Mr. Cleans out of 10, and may God have mercy on its soul. With that, I know now what I must do. I'm going to put this to rest. I'm going to ensure that this movie cannot hurt anyone ever again. You can join me if you wish, but I pass no judgment upon you if you cannot bear to go further.
There is an obsession among humanity, a great compulsion to continue onwards even at a detriment to oneself or those around us. Because we just cannot stop. We cannot resist that innate desire to see things through to the end. It is something to be both admired and to be feared. I have been driven forth by this obsession before, as I am sure many others have as well. As I sit and ponder upon the consequences of this great compulsion, a most unsettling thought arises. How long before this compulsion is our undoing, and we create something we cannot control? If God stays in heaven because he fears what he has created, then who is to say we are not gods of our own design, and soon we may create something even we fear to face? And if such a day ever comes, will we be able to stop it? I ruminate on this thought for some time, and I believe that I have seen in this film what such a thing may look like. Something forged of that great compulsion, the desire to go ever deeper, and see our goals to the end. It frightens and disturbs me in a way I cannot fully describe. In this moment, I have made my choice. I have faced this monstrous and unthinkable creation, and I chose to end it. I cannot escape the feeling, however, that it is already too late.